Now we'll be discussing about the cardiac muscle. Only the few important points of cardiac muscles. So cardiac muscle is also striated, but what is the difference? Their cardiac muscle is involuntary. And the cardiac muscle has one beautiful junction called as the gap junctions. It is connecting the two cells which we studied in general physiology also. So it is connecting the cytoplasm of two cells so the conduction can be faster, and it is very important for the heart to pump together, like a ventricle has to, all ventricle has to pump together, or all atrium has to pump together. That property is called as syncytium. They are acting together. And coming to the sarcoplasmic tubular system, we saw that in skeletal muscle it is in the AI junction. Whenever the A band and I band is there, in that junction this sarcotubular system is present. Whereas in case of cardiac muscle, the sarcotubular system is present in the Z line. It is present over the Z line. And there is one more difference between a cardiac contraction and skeletal contraction. Whereas in case of skeletal muscle, action potential arises and it activates the DHPR, and which in turn activates the RYR and releases the calcium. But in case of a cardiac muscle, what happens is this DHPR also conducts the calcium. So when this calcium enters into the DHPR, what it is going to do is it will activate the RYR, and from the RYR calcium is going to be released. So calcium is coming and calcium is released. That's why this process is called as calcium induced calcium release. So this process is called as calcium induced calcium release. Even in the smooth muscles, the same thing is going to happen, that is calcium induced calcium release. And it also, cardiac muscle also has an actin and myosin, and the myosin present is type 2 variant of myosin. And in our general physiology, we saw various cellular connections, cell to cell junctions. Among them, one specific thing is present in the desmosomes. One specific thing is present in the cardiac muscle, which is desmosomes. These desmosomes are nothing but the intercalated discs. They are present, which is connecting the cells so that they can functional. They are kept in tight support to each other. And cardiac muscle has a single nucleus. So these are the points how it differs from that of a skeletal muscle. Then coming to the cardiac muscle, they have a large T tubule, like large L tubule. Large L tubule. What is the function of this large tubule is the amount of calcium stores that can enter can be increased. So more and more calcium can enter and induce the calcium induced calcium release. Now coming to the smooth muscles. As the name indicates, why it is called smooth muscles? Because it doesn't have striations. That's why it is called smooth muscles. Smooth muscles will not have any striations. But do you think actin and myosin is not there? Of course, skeletal muscle, smooth muscle is also contracting. Like food has to pass through, it has to contract, it has to relax, everything is happening. But actin myosin is present, but they are not organized like that of a skeletal muscle. The organization is not there. It is present, but they are not organized, or we can say it is disorganized. And usually there is no Z line. There we saw there is a Z line, and the actin and myosin are completely attached to it. But here we don't have a Z line. We have something similar to that, which is called as the dense bodies. The Z line in case of a smooth muscle is called as the dense bodies. And this dense bodies will have the actin and myosin fibers like this. But there is no organized darks and light bands. Then here one protein is completely absent, that is troponin. What was troponin's function? Troponin was having 3 units, but among the one which is the most important unit, calcium unit. The calcium binds to the troponin only. So in case of a smooth muscle, the troponin is absent, but somebody has to be there to bind the calcium. That is done with the help of calmodulin. In the contraction part also, we will study about this protein calmodulin. What is its function? We will study. Then coming to another protein, tropomyosin. Troponin is absent, but tropomyosin, it is present, but the function is different from that of a skeletal muscle. That tropomyosin was inhibiting the actin-myosin interaction. Here, this tropomyosin usually promotes the actin-myosin interaction. So that is another difference I should know. Then final thing, the protein titin, the famous protein titin, it is absent in smooth muscle. Now think for yourself, why it should be absent in smooth muscles? Titin's major function is to prevent the overstretch. But what is the main function of the internal smooth muscle organs like the GAT or an urinary bladder? The GAT has to hold the food, so it has to expand. If tighten is there, what it will do? It will prevent the overstretching and stop it, which we don't want. So that's why in smooth muscle, like in the urinary bladder or in the GAT, we need overstretching. Ideally, we need to hold more capacity. Otherwise, our bladder size will be very small. It can hold up to 400 to 500 ml. So if it is very small, every time we have to go in for urinating. So that is the reason why tighten is absent in case of a smooth muscle. So these are the points in comparison to that of the skeletal muscle we should remember. Then coming to the contraction of smooth muscles. Contraction of smooth muscles, also I told you one point, that is it is also CICR. What is the CICR? It is nothing but calcium induced calcium release. It is calcium induced calcium release. This happens in case of cardiac and smooth muscles only. This calcium now is entering and some calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum will be released. So where they will go and bind? Here we don't have troponin. Instead of troponin, we have the calmodulin. This calmodulin is the one which will bind with calcium, and that they will form a complex called as calcium calmodulin complex. So once this calcium calmodulin complex is formed, they will activate a specific kind of kinase which is called as myosin light chain kinase. So this is the protein that is activated. So once this get activated, it will lead to phosphorylation. Because of this phosphorylation, the PA is added. So what will happen? There will be contraction of the smooth muscle. And after that, there will be dephosphorylation, and finally they will relax. So this is the phases of contraction and relaxation in case of a smooth muscle. Skeletal muscle contraction is very important. Smooth muscle, you just have to remember this, activate the MLC kinase.